It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
I think everybody loves success story and everybody loves to read about good news. And there's been a lot of good news out there recently with regards to price growth, specifically obviously now in Melbourne that we are starting to see an uptick. But I think that context is very important as well, in the sense that the average house price in Port Melbourne, for example, my specific marketplace, was sitting at 1.8 million in 2021. It then continued to decline significantly to 1.63 as of September last year, but then with a steady uptick back to 1.68 as of today. So the media is not wrong in the sense that the market is uplifting, but I think the correct terminology would probably be that we're seeing a more stable market and we're seeing stability and we're seeing measured growth.
Well, one of the talking points, and we have been talking about this in Melbourne, is the underquoting that is taking place. What have you been seeing this year with relation to that?
Really good question, and it can be a touchy subject for some. We at Buxton don't practice underquoting. We're very firm on that, but we have witnessed it practiced heavily in our marketplace this spring. Going back to, context in the media about results and about property prices going up, you also have to question, is there a true growth or is it just advertised as such because the properties were underquoted? To give you an idea, there was a property in our marketplace recently that was quoted, I believe, 1.5 to 1.6. And there were 2 or 3 other agents that we knew of that had gone through the property and told those owners that it was worth well within the 2s. And guess what? At auction, it sold for mid-2s. So unfortunately, that's a very common story in our marketplace. It shouldn't be that way. But I do feel as though currently there's the upswing in underquoting again, which is causing these, huge news stories about big results, when really those results were probably always supposed to happen.
So what is driving the growth? A lot of people will be asking that question. Well, 3 RBA rate cuts this year. You've got the rise of consumer confidence and low property listings. I mean, that is all fueling Australia's property boom. Then you've got buyers are moving faster than sellers. Now, that might be a moot point, which is creating fierce competition and driving up prices. Is that the case where you are, Nancy, in terms of buyers are moving faster than sellers?
I think it really depends on what part of the marketplace you're in. So that's certainly true for homes in desirable school pockets or with recent renovations done in the last 5 years or with large land components. So in our specific marketplace, we have seen huge results for renovated family homes, specifically on large blocks. There's been 2 recent results that have been pretty publicised in our marketplace. That said, for the remainder of the market, I genuinely feel as though there's really only 1 or 2 buyers for each campaign. And from our side as agents, we're also having to work a lot harder to keep them on those properties and to progress them further into purchasing those properties. That's what I'm seeing on the ground currently.
Now, despite a blockbuster season, the Block 2025, as I mentioned, has ended with just 3 homes sold and 2 passing in. Agents and valuers, they're blaming one thing, and that is the reserves set too high.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly right. I think you've got to remember that The Block is a reality television show and it's all about drama. It's all about creating controversy. It's about people and relationships. It wouldn't be the show it is if everything ran smoothly, everyone got on well, all the houses sold for healthy profits at the end of the day. So, The Block, I believe, Channel 9 has told us this year that the ratings were, I think, some of the best ratings ever. I think there's still a space for The Block on television and they're rolling out next year already. Whether we like it or not, it's still is successful. And I think there's so many reality television shows out there, a lot of the general public seem to love.
Yeah. So again, let us know your thoughts if you're listening and totally disagreeing with my take on The Block. Now, the reserve, it was set at 2.99. I think you've been critical with that, saying that it should have been closer to 2.5.
It should have. Look, the housing market in Daylesford and regional Victoria across the board is very, very tough at the moment. The highest price for a house ever sold in Daylesford, within the township of Daylesford, was $3 million. There's only been one sale for $3 million, which was a sale that I sold a few years ago. There was one other very off-market sale recently that sold for $4 million, but that's off-market. So to expect to sell 5 houses for $3 million plus on one day in Daylesford was an incredibly big ask, and one that we always worried about. I guess with the block, it's not the agents that set the prices, and this is important that people realise that. We're told the price of the house that we have to quote, which in this case was 3 to 3.3. If I was running that campaign, I would never have set that quote price so high. Secondly, the reserves that we only find out about literally the day before, or when the contestants do, set at 2.99. We were just aghast. We couldn't believe it. We felt that not only was there a huge risk that the houses weren't going to sell, but obviously it's also about a competition and about the contestants winning some money. So it was absolutely incredibly difficult from as soon as we found out about those reserves. We just were in shock.
As you say, the agents have got no control over this. One of the key things that we always bang on about is do your due diligence. Do your research in the market. Find out what other homes are valued at. Now, for anybody looking in on this kind of looks the complete opposite of doing that. It's like somebody has dreamed up a number and said, this is what we're going with. That's it, 2.99. All the agents would have been looking at themselves saying, what is going on here? There's no way. That is miles off the pace.
Absolutely. As agents, we don't really have any say in the quote price that we're given to quote the properties for, and also the reserve. There's a few ways of looking at it. The homes are beautiful homes. So if you look at within those title boundaries of each home, you are getting a lot of bang for your buck. The homes are big. They're beautifully finished. There's very high-end fittings and fixtures. Externally, our house, which was Matt and Robbie's house, House 5, we had pickleball courts. We've got a beautiful underground cellar that's fully fitted with bespoke cabinetry. There's swimming pool, outdoor pergolas. There's all sorts of stuff in these homes that certainly make the value very, very high. There's gymnasiums, all sorts of things. The main problem is, though, for me, was the location. When people are going to be spending the highest ever price, or, one of the highest ever prices in Daylesford, they're wanting something very, very special. And most of our buyers, the vast majority of our buyers, are coming out of Melbourne. They're wanting a tree change. They're moving to the country. So they're generally wanting a beautiful country feel, lots of trees, often a beautiful outlook. And these homes, I felt, didn't optimise that by any way. They were on a fairly main road coming into town. At the rear of them, they were surrounded by a new subdivision that backed, right up to the homes. It was very visible from most of the homes. So it was, for me personally, it was the location that let these properties down at a high price. If I could have picked up our house and put it in a different location in a lovely, country lane with a beautiful view, yes, it would have been worth $3 million every day. But that, for me, that was the main issue.
And PropTrack reported that around 57% of mortgage holders have never checked if their offset account is correctly linked to their loan. And that is a very costly mistake. An offset account can dramatically reduce interest, but if it's not linked properly, you're paying more than you should. And unfortunately, 1 in 10 Aussies assume that it's automatic, yet only a quarter have confirmed it's set up correctly. So what are we going to do about this? Well, let's take you to Desley Taylor from Mortgage Choice, and Desley is in Queensland. Good morning, Desley. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast. Whereabouts in Queensland are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I am located in a little town called Ormeau. I wouldn't even call it a town. It's a little suburb in Ormeau. And we are smack between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So as you drive down the M1, you'll probably drive past us and give us a wave, and that's where we are.
Yeah, that area, that has been sort of going gangbusters over the last 3 years. You would know that only too well. So what's attracting people into your local market?
Oh, look, it has been going crazy. And purely, I think it's location. It's far enough away from Brisbane and the Gold Coast to be that little bit further away. So it is the suburbs, but you're close enough to Brisbane and the Gold Coast to only be half an hour drive away from either destination. Because it's so central and it's a fantastic community. I have to say, it's an amazing community. So yeah, it's attracting a lot of people and it's growing exponentially.
Now, as I mentioned, 57% of mortgage holders have never checked if their offset account is correctly linked to their loan. Perhaps first off, because there will be a lot of first home buyers haven't bought a property yet and they might be unsure of what an offset account is. So perhaps just start there for us, Desley.
Absolutely. Well, an offset account is your everyday working account. It's an everyday transacting account. Some lenders have multiple. So it could be your working account, your savings account, your holiday account. So it's your everyday accounts that they purely link to your home loan in the background. So it's an account in which you will have your transactions going through, your savings sitting there. And basically on a daily basis, the lender will do a snapshot and it's like a set of scales. If your mortgage is sitting at $500 and if you've got $20,000 collectively in your bank accounts that are linked as an offset, you will only pay interest on the difference. So interest is calculated daily, charged monthly. So the more you have in your offset accounts, the less interest you will actually then pay on your home loan. So basically, the more you have in one, the less interest you will pay on another. So it is vital that you know that all of your accounts are linked. So every dollar that you have is working for you.
Now, there's a mortgage expert who has shared a shocking story of a homeowner depositing $340,000, which is an inheritance, into their offset account, believing that they were saving on interest. The problem was, a year later, they discovered the account wasn't linked to their variable home loan, meaning no interest savings at all. So, Desley, I'll get you to explain why this has happened and the scenario around it.
This is a crucial mistake. Unfortunately, it will always come back to a customer error. No one will ever take responsibility. However, 99% of the time, it's admin error from the banking sector when a new loan is set up, when a refinance is completed. It's basically, unfortunately, admin errors and 9 times out of 10, human error, where someone has not linked the offset account to the home loan in the background. Now, this is generally done from the banking position as soon as settlement is completed. Therefore, I tell all of my clients, and I take the responsibility personally now, due to experiences of this in the past, to make sure that we follow up with the lender, or we instruct the client to follow up with the lender a week after settlement to ensure all of the accounts are linked.
Grab your weekly dose of inspiration to help build a real estate portfolio. We talk to the best in the business every day. Learn from the professionals and know your property with us.
House prices in some areas surging by up to 141 grand in just 3 months. Unbelievable.
It's a significant amount of money to add to the median house price in quite a short period of time. And look, Woody Point really just illustrates the momentum that we've seen in Brisbane's housing market. And I think that suburb in particular, there's lots of quality homes that have been renovated. There's lots of knockdown rebuilds occurring and development, which changes the price point quite dramatically. And I think, the ultimate, it is that family-friendly suburb, easy commute to the city, which I think attracts residents to the area. But there's other areas. So Highland Park in regional Queensland. We've got Crow's Nest in Sydney, which has joined the $1 Million Club. And Crow's Nest in Sydney, that's for units. So units have edged over $1 million in Crow's Nest. And then we've got in regional Queensland, Glasshouse Mountains, house prices. And then back to Brisbane, unit prices in New Farm have edged over $1 million over the recent quarter.
Okay, so let's continue down the list with Paddington and Tweed Heads, etc. But just coming back to, do you expect more suburbs to join the $1 million club? What do you think?
Look, I think we are going to continue to see that. We have in our latest house price report seen that Australia's housing market is seeing momentum being reignited. We have seen the market shift into a higher gear. And so our expectations is there's many suburbs almost bridging that $1 million. It's going to push more of them into that $1 million median. And look, we've got areas like Tweed Heads West in regional New South Wales. House prices have joined the $1 million club. We've got units in Paddington, so in Sydney's Paddington, and then back to kind of regional New South Wales, Adamstown, house prices. And then one in Perth, we've got East Victoria Park in Perth. Back to Sydney, we've got Springwood house prices have joined that $1 million club, and then Mount Lofty in regional Queensland. But then what's interesting, you've even got kind of outer locations of the outer area of Sydney. So Picton arguably could be described as a regional location, but house prices in Picton have now edged over that $1 million mark.
Yeah, interesting that we've got Queensland pretty much dominating with New South Wales. Yes, you've got the standout there in Western Australia. No Victorian suburbs on that latest $1 million suburb, which sort of comes back to the point of Brisbane, now the second most expensive city in Australia. And you just sort of look at that list to sort of see why it's tracking momentum-wise in that direction.
Brisbane has been on a super cycle. We continue to see prices rise. It is, for the first time on our records, the second most expensive property market in Australia, not only for house prices, but also for unit prices. And it gained the record for unit prices 12 months ago and has remained our second most expensive unit market. It's remarkable. It doesn't even feel that long ago where I was, witnessing an oversupply of units. I mean, you cannot say that for Brisbane now. It is a grossly undersupplied housing market, which is really coming out in price growth. I mean, we've got house prices and unit prices edging up another 4% in 3 months. And a 4% growth is an enormous amount of growth at a capital city level. 11 consecutive quarters of house price growth for Brisbane. That is the longest upswing we've seen for Brisbane in 21 years. Unit prices, 18 consecutive quarters of growth. Longest uninterrupted gains that we've seen on record for unit prices in Brisbane. These stats just highlight this super cycle that Brisbane's been on.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.